welcome back to highintensitybusiness.com, the podcast where we discuss high-intensity strength training and provide you with the tools, the tactics, and strategies to help you grow your strength training business. This is episode 338, and my guest today is Julian Masler, who returns for a part 2 on the podcast. Julian is a CEO and co-founder of Aurum Fit, fast-growing high-intensity training, personal training franchise in Switzerland. Julian, welcome back to the podcast. Great to have you.
Thanks. Great to be here.
Great to have you. Really, really grateful for you taking the time because, you guys are doing really, really well. You're very busy. And so, I appreciate you taking the time. Do you want to just give us an update on what's been happening? You guys have got 8 locations right now. I emailed you the other day and you were like, Lawrence, I'm super busy opening 3 locations all at once. So clearly things are going well. So give us an update on the business and growth.
Yes. So when we last spoke, we had the 4 locations in Switzerland only, or in near proximity to Zurich. By now, we are operating in Germany, in Stuttgart and Munich. These are franchise locations. They're doing really well. And we are in the process of opening 5 more stores, 2 owned stores and 3 more franchise stores towards the next 6 months. After that, the plan is to open 13 to 15 stores next year. So we are really kicking the franchising now into full gear. And it's great to see more and more people embracing the high intensity training philosophy and just having a lot of people then again talking about it with friends, and the movement is forming.
I love it. So what's your actual vision then? Because clearly you've got, you're opening a lot of locations over the next few years. So what's the vision for the business? Have you got a 5-year or a 10-year? What are you aiming for here?
So the big, hairy, audacious goal, right, would be to have 1,000 locations towards the end of the decade. And it's such a great thing to have such a big, hairy, audacious goal because it expands your mind and you think about the business in a different way. And for all the listeners that think this is absurd, it helps you to just also solve things now, because if you then make it to 10 locations, imagine your life at 10 locations. That's also awesome already, right? So why not? Let's shoot for the stars and train like an astronaut, right?
I love it. And and you're right. It helps you make decisions now as well, right? It's when you're choosing software or you're choosing something in your business or a way of doing things, you're thinking about that longer term view and whether it's congruent with that, whether it's going to help with that. Obviously, you can't account for everything. As a business grows, there's certain things you need to rip and replace in order to scale. I understand.
Absolutely. And don't run yourself into the ground, right? If this makes you uncomfortable, then just aim for 10 locations and see where this is bringing you. And that's something that you have to manage, that you're not stressed out by your vision, by your goal, or feel like a failure.
Yeah, good tip. And do you want to, just for those who aren't familiar with your business, because I know that most of the listeners probably have listened to our first podcast together, but for those that haven't, can you just give us a recap on your business model? What exactly do you sell?
So we open micro studios. So they are only 100 square meter of space in very good locations in inner city centers. And we only offer one workout. We call it the 6-minute workout. It's a high intensity training workout. We do a leg press, a row, a chest press, a torso extension, a pull down, and an overhead press. This is always guided with a coach and performed on our proprietary equipment. And we just created a solution for effective people. So these are people that don't do strength training for the sake of doing strength training. They do it to achieve a certain fitness level and strength level, to then go and enjoy things outside of a fitness studio, which they really love to be ineffective or inefficient and spend a lot of time. The way we think about it is, or what we often say to people is, hey, listen, when did you last time that you said, okay, now let's figure out how we can be effective at the cinema? So nobody says that. We have things where we don't want to be super effective or efficient. These are called hobbies. And we just said, look, strength training is not a hobby. It's something that you want to be as efficient and effective as possible at, and then go and enjoy your life. And that's what we concentrated on. We got rid of all unnecessary things and just offered that strength training, quantified and highly efficient and effective. And it resonates with a growing and big audience out there that is underserved by existing solutions. And obviously, we take from the sports scientific point of view, we leverage the high intensity training philosophy because it's so easy and just well backed up by science, and it's the way people should think about strength training.
Yeah. And what's your thoughts on, obviously you've decided to go for a coach at every location or coaches at every location. I recently did a podcast with Mike Polano over at ARX. That's a while ago now. And we were talking about, this kind of wave, if you like, or I suppose growth. Maybe it's not growth. Maybe it's an idea stage for a lot of businesses. But it's this idea that some businesses are going to go for the self-supervision route, right? So they just, let's say, set up an ARX or similar device in a location and have people just paid access and use it themselves without supervision. My kind of counter to that was people just won't work as hard typically. And maybe that's what you'd say as well. But did you consider self-supervision versus a coach? And talk to me about your thought process there and why you decided to stick with a coach.
So in the beginning, we definitely considered that, but it completely changes the business model. When you think about self-supervision or self-service, you can go and change the business model and also the pricing and the spaces that you use and stuff like that. And we kind of were a bit, how do you say that? We were a bit afraid of experimenting too much with a system that we knew worked. So we said we double down on supervised training in these micro studio concepts. But definitely, it's around, and it will always be around because people that are really good at this, for example, you and me, we could definitely do the high intensity training alone if we had the right equipment. Like ARX is great equipment for high intensity training, and so definitely you can train alone, because we both wouldn't see the value in paying for a coach, because we know everything ourselves. So we would then go for a gym where it's self-service and we only pay a membership fee of maybe $50 or $100 a month, maybe. So that's kind of where the business model meets the service model. Each service model has a right business model. And for the model we are in, it's with a coach, and it's a premium model, right? You pay not as much as for personal training, but you pay more than for a discount gym.
Yeah, I have to say though, I understand what you mean. I know plenty of people who are like, very self-motivated to train really hard by themselves. I prefer to be trained. I actually, even though I've trained, I've trained myself for years, I just love it when I can go into a location, someone's already got my program. They've already done it for me. They've done the hard thinking. They're tracking the variables, right? Absolutely. And then they put me through a workout. And then I've just lost your video there for a second, Julian. And then they put me through a workout, and then they're pushing me really hard on every single exercise. And they push. There's no doubt. I mean, the literature on supervision is relatively clear, right? You do perform better when you're being supervised. And obviously, if you top that up with really good coaching skills, then I just think you're going to perform better. And I've had some of the best workouts I've had in a long time recently with Nigel, Nigel Leons, who's been working with us at Optima Strength. And I love it. So, and I think it's great from a business owner perspective, because then you really start to appreciate the value you provide even more. I mean, you have to be a customer yourself to really appreciate that, right? And really understand and convey that value to others.
And I must say, it already starts before the training level. We are now talking about the training level or the quality of the workout level, but it already starts a step higher, and that's at the compliance level, because a lot of people are just not so self-motivated, and when things come in the way during a day, it's easy to skip a workout or delay a workout, and then over time just don't train as regularly as you would if you had a model where you have an appointment. In some cases, you have a cancellation fee. You have a personal connection with the coach where you are like, I'm actually bailing on my workout with that coach, right? It's kind of peer pressure in a way. Yeah. And so it's just what people need to comply to strength training at many levels is this appointment with a coach. And that's already worth a lot if you think about the utility that you get out of a strength training program.
Yeah, that's feedback I get a lot, actually. It's just the accountability is a huge part of the value.
A training buddy and a coach are just...
I mean, even myself, I was doing, don't tell anyone, Julian, but I was doing yoga recently.
Me too. It's great.
I like it. And I was doing yoga with a friend of mine, and it was really good fun. And I enjoyed it as like a morning practice, like a way to get started for the day. And I was only doing it once a week, but it was great. And one of the weeks he went on holiday and said, we're gonna have to skip it this week, and I'll send you a bunch of videos and you can still do it yourself at the normal time. I didn't do it. But when he shows up, I'm gonna do it, right? It's fascinating how that works. So,
and I mean, it's also the literature on wearables is also it's so convincing. So I've hired a few guys that have been working for a very forward-thinking wearable company that went broke, and they wanted to find out what will make people move more. And so they were thinking about all crazy incentivation, gamification things, and the literature is pretty clear. The only thing that makes people move more is getting a dog.
Right.
It's the ultimate move more training buddy, because he's looking at you, he's so sweet, and he will literally do his thing on your carpet if you don't go and move with him. And so you move. They
just go insane, don't they, dogs? Like
we have
a little dog, and in fact today we took her for a walk because we haven't taken her for a proper walk for a few days, and I was like, we need to do this. But go ahead.
Yeah, you have to go for walks with them. It's also cruel in a way to not go for walks with them.
Yeah. How does the wearable work then? Is it a wearable for the dog?
That would be the next thing. Yeah. But that's already in the making.
Okay. I like it.
No.
I like
the wearable doesn't. The wearable they found out that it's not possible to make people move more because just of feedback from a wearable.
Right. So the whole 10,000 steps thing doesn't seem to motivate as many people, or
no.
Oh,
so it's not making them move more. It's just telling them that they should move more. And it's nice to we come to that with the why, right? With in our discussion later. When people understand why they should move more at a deep level, they will naturally move more.
This is such a good point. I know, because I was just going to say, because obviously, it's been said multiple times on this podcast, like once you get stronger, people do move more, right? It's like people put the cart before the horse. They focus on steps rather than strength.
And it's like you become stronger, you become more able, and now you want to do something with this ableness, right? You like you said, I'm trying yoga, just enjoying my body, right? For me and my girlfriend, it's something we have Vita parcours here in Switzerland, where you are outside in the forest, and there are different stations where you can do different little exercises like pull-ups or also things where you have to be skillful, right? Balancing stuff, and it's just enjoyable.
Yeah.
It's so enjoyable, and you really love to move more when you are fitter. It's a flywheel of success, if you so will.
Yeah, you're totally right. It's like if you live this life where you just do strength training and then you're like sat at a desk and then you're at home, you just, for me, I speak from personal experience, it drives you a little bit insane. You want to use this body and this strength and this muscle that you've created, right? And you want to use it whilst, because if you're, well, it doesn't matter what age you are, I suppose. But for me, I'm thinking I'm in the prime of my life. I want to use this. And then, I've had lots of debates on the podcast with people about sports. Obviously sports increase injury risk and you have to kind of weigh that up in your mind. But, I'm playing basketball again now and I absolutely love it. I only play once a week. It's a social thing, but it's fun to still see, wow, look at what I can do on the basketball court. And I have great time with other people. And it's like, look, you know what? If I get an injury, so be it. But yeah.
Yeah, it's funny what you say. You want to perform at some level with the body that you create with fitness training and strength training, right? And it's the same for me. I was like, okay, now I'm so able with this body. What's the point, right? What do I do with it now? And so, as you know, I was a professional sailor during my youth, and now that is just too time consuming, and I can't do it. So I was looking for a new challenge on how to apply this fitness, and I came across jiu-jitsu. And now I'm training jiu-jitsu just in a way to have again a bit of a competition, to learn a new skill, to work with that body, and it ties so beautifully into our slogan, into the strength to enjoy life, and what resonates with our clients. It's not just to have a six pack or to be like to have a six pack or to achieve some exterior goal or how you want to look like. It's about being fit and able and enjoying that body in your life. And I think it's a new way of looking at fitness now that this industry and this category is maturing. Because let's think about it, it's not so old. It's actually started really to gain traction. Fitness and strength training and stuff like that began gaining traction in the 90s, really 80s and 90s. So it's only 40 years. Horse riding has been around for a lot of more years, right? And so it's constantly developing, and it's also the public perception about it is constantly developing. And I think strength training is going through the same, and especially high intensity strength training is going through the same revolution that running went through beginning in the 60s and 70s with the book Aerobics by Dr. Kenneth Cooper, and then Nike with their amazing marketing around running. And so all of a sudden everybody was running. And for my parents, when they said, oh, now I have to get into to do something and try to sustain my fitness, they went running. They didn't even think about strength training. And now more and more people think about strength training. I should take up strength training when I talk about sustaining my fitness.
Yeah, definitely true. I'm hearing it more, which is really promising to see. Let's get into some marketing for a moment, shall we? So
perfect.
Last time we spoke, you gave some really, really fantastic advice on marketing. You talked us through the marketing strategy for Aurum. And I'd love to just dig into that a little bit more for a moment here. So before we got recording, you kind of said how, you feel very confident that you guys are really nailing the marketing side of the business right now. So can you just give us an overview of what you're doing, broadly speaking, and then maybe dig into some of the tactics? Yeah.
So the first and most important thing with this business is the personal network, right? That's what we scaled with the franchisees. It is so effective if you talk to people about this philosophy and what's around it, and they can feel your enthusiasm, and then they will come and try it out, and they will definitely buy if they see the value in it. And when you scale this personal person-to-person information about this amazing protocol called high intensity training, to a next level, we are talking about content marketing, right? We are talking about educational content on specific problems. How does high intensity training solve your lower back pain problem? How does high intensity training solve your fatness problem? Or how does high intensity training help you to slim down? And it goes on and on and on, and just educating people from a generous point of departure, where you're not saying this is not transactional. I'm just educating you about this amazing formula for fitness success. And then when you are passionate about content marketing and you create a lot of great content, the awareness will take care of itself. It will help you with public relations. It will help you with your personal network, and it supports everything. So, for example, if you talk to somebody about high intensity training, they're really interested, and you can follow up with a blog post of yours. That's just great, right? The other day we had somebody in the studio. Franchisee was in a coaching call with me, and he said, "Yeah, this person has a hip replacement." And I just, oh, that's perfect. We have a YouTube video that's really performing at a high level. It's watched a lot about a hip replacement. And so he was like, oh, great. I will send her that link. And so it goes full circle. And the content marketing is something that I really emphasize a lot, and that I really recommend to every business owner. It's you're creating assets that can create leads 10 years down the road. It's not just a paid promotion on the radio that airs one time and then it's gone. If you build on your own platforms a great content, you will have it for a lot of years, and it will make a big difference in your profitability. And then if you want to add paid marketing, you want to always think about, how can I distribute my content? Not how can I do paid marketing? How can I distribute my content? So that is, how can I rent other people's channels to distribute my content and link back to my own properties in like to my blog or my podcast or something like that. And that is great. Then you can look at the media that your target group is consuming, and you can get in contact and negotiate a great rent of that channel. So, for example, an advertorial in a newspaper, or a promotion on radio or something like that. That is, by the way, also a big tailwind of high intensity strength training is you have a story to tell, and you have something that basically touches everybody. It's about fitness and health, and so that always drives down your cost if you have a great story to tell of the advertorials, because the newspaper or the media, they get something out of it more than money. They get something that is not annoying. It's really something that educates people, and that lifts the quality of the whole publication, or lifts the quality and the experience for the readers or viewers or listeners of the publication. So these are the three phases, high level, that we go through, and the details are in the first podcast. And it works really well for a scalable customer acquisition strategy.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, you're right. It's this, like you were saying before, high intensity training is such a silver bullet. There's just an endless number of topics you can write about in terms of different problems it can solve. It's just so many, right? Which creates basically a infinite list of things you can write about, and enables you to target pretty much any target market you're going after. Just a couple questions on what you said. What are you doing in terms of scheduling at the moment? So how often are you putting out new content for Aurum right now?
So at the moment, in the beginning, we were writing about stuff that we cared about, which is definitely a great way to start, because it's genuine and it's easier for you to create that content because you feel about it and you're passionate about it. And there we had a rhythm of once a week. We had a blog post, and now we have basically covered all the big keywords on the problems that people face with their fitness. And what we did now is we said, okay, we'll stop for a moment creating new content, and first gathering data on what are the main and most important problems for people, and then create new mediums of content around these blog posts. For example, we started and created a lot of high quality YouTube videos, because many people prefer just to watch a video than to read a blog post. And going forward, we then also will start and talk to experts in a podcast style format about these problems, right? And on the content creation strategy across all these mediums, we will look at the long tail keywords. So this can be, for example, the main keyword would be fat loss. And then you have a long tail keyword, how to lose fat when you are above 50 and female. So we go into the details in the coming years on this content.
Yeah, I also just want to say to listeners, if you don't have the same size of team like Aurum, don't worry about not being able to put out the same schedule, and I can see people hearing what you're saying there and maybe get a little bit overwhelmed. So I just think it's important to get started. Just maybe try and do one blog post once a week, something like that. I know Dr. Bryce Lee over at Strength Space does a really good job of this. He's got some really great blog posts that I enjoy reading, and he's investing, like you're saying, he's investing in his asset, right?
Absolutely.
Through doing that.
And it's also when you go through phases of maturity in your content creation strategy, right? And just get started. And then after a while, you find out that it is hard to write something meaningful every week. So you can stop and just let it sit, and then maybe say, okay, I'm really caring about the problem of osteoporosis. Why not really research on this topic for a month and work maybe a half an hour each day on it? And then write a long form blog post that is really, really rich in data and different perspectives, and really informs people thoroughly on the topic. You can think about all these things. It's just that you do stuff that you care about and put it out there.
Yeah, that's such good advice. I think Hit Uni do that really well, actually. So that's Simon's company, Simon Shawcross. They don't put out a lot of content regularly, but when they do, they put a lot of effort into it.
Yeah.
And
First
it's really
class.
On the money. Yeah. Okay. You read it too. And it always inspires me. I'm always like, I have sort of a friendly competition with them, and I'm like, obviously we collaborate a lot, but they push me to want to put out better content because I have a higher frequency and probably occasionally not as higher quality as they do. So I find that inspiring. But
you have people like the CEO of Aurum on the podcast.
Yeah, I mean, who wants to listen
to
that?
The quality is so it's so bad.
No, but I do definitely pick some topics that are less popular sometimes, but trial and error. What was I going to say? Yeah, and you mentioned something also really important there, which is, again, talking about focus. Don't do too many things. We talked last time about the importance of BNI and personal networking. And, I've had Luke on the podcast say, maybe talking to, a business owner sort of as an example, you say, maybe you should stop doing all those things you're doing. Stop doing Facebook ads, stop doing advertorials in newspapers, stop doing X, Y, and Z, and just do BNI. Don't do anything else. Just do BNI. Because we get spread. Yeah.
I mean, BNI is a great topic, right? All the franchisees are now joining BNI and having a great experience there. And I said before, right? Why did I not keep on going into BNI? Because my time there was not leveraged in the right way anymore. If you have one studio, you should definitely be the light tower of fitness in your area, right? And that you can achieve that through BNI. You can go there and you do nothing different than online at BNI. You're putting out content. You're educating people about the solution. You're educating people about yourself. You're building trust. And then they will try it out. They will refer people. BNI is a great way to do that. Or for that matter, any other structured networking group is a great way to do that. You must be the head educator about high intensity training in your community, and then the business will take care of itself, or the leads will take care of itself.
Yeah, I completely agree. I love BNI. And just to give, I guess, you an update and the listeners an update, I've been doing BNI for about 12 weeks, and it's
I was a president at the end, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, I went through the whole thing. I was really shy in the beginning. I was like, how does this work? Oh, hopefully I don't forget to say my name and company in the end of my 60 seconds pitch and stuff like that. And I was super afraid of the first meetings. And then at the end, I was running the meeting and I was having a great time. And it was still great friends with a lot of people from that chapter and around the other chapters.
So cool. Yeah, it's I mean, I did it in a previous life. So I did it in IT sales like 10 years ago, and I loved it then. And then when I realized it was so powerful in our space, I thought, yeah, absolutely going to invest in that. And
how do you like it now?
Say again.
How do you like it now that you sell something that is not so abstract?
Yeah, I think obviously I'm pretty good salesperson, so I'm quite good at that format. So it sort of lends to my strengths anyway. But I also think if someone isn't, it's a great way to really improve their public speaking skills, right? And so even if you're introverted or nervous, I think you should just do it because BNI is so welcoming. Everyone will make you better. Everyone will help you grow.
Great mindset there.
To talk about numbers, I really want to be specific with numbers because I know people are skeptical and about this as a growth tactic. But we invested about €1,000 in a year, and we've had an ROI of about €2,207, I believe, to be exact. And that's going to grow exponentially because obviously that is repeat business, which I always. So for those that don't understand, the way BNI works is. You record a thank you for the business. So whenever we transact business in Optima, which is attributed to BNI, I will put that through BNI to show the ROI. And in 12 weeks, that's unbelievable. A lot of businesses in BNI wait a year to get like one referral that actually turns into business, right? The fact that we've already doubled our ROI in like 12 weeks.
And it's because you have the tier one of the group is the people in that group. They can use your service, and then they know people, and it's just such a everybody needs this, and so it's a high probability that people in BNI are actually your target group because they are entrepreneurs or self-employed and they don't find time to do strength training. And then you come around and say, hey, listen, I have this solution that only takes 20 minutes a week. And you're like, okay, sign me up.
And moreover, I had an amazing external referral recently. A lady who lives near Dublin who has a senior position as like a head of IT for a business. So it's obviously quite affluent, but really needed a time-efficient way to really improve her health and start working out. And she absolutely loves it. She trains twice a week virtually, right? And it's like a perfect fit for us. And like she'll, hopefully stay for a very long time. And, it's a really good, great business for us. So like that is just a perfect referral through BNI. So I'm really chuffed we got that. So, and hope it will continue.
And it's scalable.
Yeah.
I mean, when you think you can still get a lot of value out of it, you can then also have an employee of yours go to BNI, and they get a great sales training for free there.
Yeah, it's a great point. That's something we'll probably get to at some point. I suspect I'll be doing it for the foreseeable, but yeah, eventually we'll get someone.
Yeah, because for me now, right, my main focus is acquiring franchisees, and so BNI wouldn't be the right tool my customers change. It's a different niche, and so you do things now like the franchise expo in Frankfurt later this month and stuff like that. That's what you should do then. And but BNI for a local business and a service-oriented business is just outstanding.
Absolutely. God, I think we've probably sold BNI enough.
Yeah, I mean, we've been selling. You should take commission. I mean, I've heard through your podcast about BNI.
Yeah.
Right. Then I on. I said BNI is great. Now, I've come on again. We're talking about BNI for 5 minutes.
Yeah, we've got. I mean, I'm an absolute BNI evangelist. Like, because I was immediately like, when I learned about power teams and trying to get people to join who I could provide business to, I was immediately very motivated to connect with all the people that I knew who were like great at fat loss and nutrition coaching, for example, and say, hey, you should join BNI. We don't care about nutrition. We don't want to do that. We just want to do strength training. But we get clients who ask every single day, can you help me with my midsection? And I'm like, yes, strength training will help with that, but you need to really address the diet. And so we built those power teams, and I've got an individual in Ireland and in the UK who I'm working with, and that's just awesome.
It's fun that you said that. We have it as well. We have the exact same power teams. I
love that.
One through BNI, more on the psychology level, and the other I think came also from BNI or a professional from BNI, a doctor, a nutritionist, where we refer the nutrition business to, right? Exactly what you said, and for your listeners, it's going to happen in your community as well, because people are on the basic blueprint of people is the same everywhere around the world. That's great.
Yeah, no, I agree. And it's for those, again, that don't fully understand, just to be clear, the way BNI works is it's based on givers gain. So the more business you give to people in BNI, the more business you get in return is roughly how it works. And obviously, if you can find individuals who it's very natural for you to find referrals for, like fat loss coaches or nutritionists, then those are the ideal people to start partnering with. And then obviously they're going to have individuals who want to do workouts at your studio or virtual workouts, and they're going to send referrals back your way. And it's done through a BNI format, which records everything. And it's just awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. So last question I had about the content marketing. I just want to jump back there for a second. Are you I know that you probably have a CMO who looks after this, Julian, but are you aware of the results you've got from that? So in terms of a number of leads generated, in terms of free consultations or emails captured, to just talk about some of the results you've had from content marketing. Yeah.
The quantifying it is a bit of a challenge always, and that's why it's also part of why we stopped a bit the creation part. We migrate all the systems to HubSpot, which is really like, that's advanced stuff. I wouldn't recommend that to a 1 or 2 unit operation. It's a purpose-built content marketing software platform that connects everything around the web on the one platform, and then you can track exactly that. You can track down to which blog post led to a trial session.
But why
and
not,
at the moment, we don't have the number.
Be too big for 1 or 2 studios? I'm thinking that would be, if you've got a couple of studios doing a few million a year, like, why not? It's pricey, is it? Okay, right.
The price, I mean, everybody can decide on their own, but the price escalates pretty quickly. It's an enterprise solution.
Okay, got it. I understand. But you've seen good results in terms of, I mean, you say it's hard to measure. Sorry, I can't cut you off there, but could you just elaborate on the sort of results you've seen? I know it's murky, it's difficult to track, but anything else you can say on that?
I can definitely I can definitely say something about the trial trainings that we see each month, depending on seasonality. We have around 30 to 50 trial trainings each month per store here in Zurich.
That's incredible.
Yeah, and it's because we have so many sources. It's referral from existing clients. It's content marketing. It's paid marketing. And the conversion rate is around 50%. It was a bit higher before when we didn't grow so quickly and didn't try out so many different marketing channels. But yeah, I can tell you a number of how content marketing brings in the business, but an observation that I had is when we committed to content marketing and put out reasonably great content on a weekly basis and then send it via a newsletter to our subscribers, things started picking up speed.
Hey, it's Lawrence here, and sorry to abruptly stop the podcast. Julian actually had to stop to take his new baby swimming, and so we decided to record part 2 of this podcast 2 days later. So that's why there's not really a smooth transition here, and I'm wearing different clothes and Julian's in a different place. But we pick up from where we left off. We start talking about how content marketing turns into conversions in terms of driving sales. We talk about follow-up. This is just a fantastic rest of this podcast to really show you how to drive more results, how to get more customers into your high-intensity training business through content marketing and proven sales methods as well. So enjoy the rest of the episode and see you soon. So welcome back to part 2, everyone, of my podcast with Julian Masler from Aurum Fit. This is part 2 to episode 338. And we've just decided to pretty much stitch these two together. We weren't sure what we were going to do, but Julian had to take his baby swimming yesterday. So here we are. We're recording part 2 now, a couple of days later. So we kind of finished up talking about content marketing. And I thought you gave just some great advice on how the listeners can implement effective content marketing strategies in their businesses. And you really sold me, made a strong case as to why content marketing is a great place to invest, because but you're building an asset that's really valuable in educating your existing and prospective clients. And it's obviously working with you over time and it's compounding, right? And you're driving leads and all of that. So it has multiple benefits. And you also talked, the final point you made is the real results started happening for Aurum when you actually started pinging out on a newsletter to all of your clients. Now it's a cycle, right? Because obviously the more content marketing you do is the more emails you're going to capture if you've got a good email list building strategy set up as well. So it all kind of works in a cycle. And today we're talking about what happens when you actually have people go on your email list, they sign up for a free workout, then they come in for a free consultation. So talk to me about that. What's your sales process? How do you maximize sales conversions?
Yes, and I think it dovetails seamlessly into conversions, content marketing. Because throughout the whole process, you're educating people. And it comes from a point of empathy. It comes from a point of providing value and not driving necessarily a sale immediately, right? It's kind of people want to interact with your business, and especially when it's something like health and fitness, they are willing to take some time and understand certain topics around the problem that they try to solve. And so when you think about it from a process perspective, you have the top of funnel, which is awareness phase, where you can drive people to your website with the content pieces that you put out there. And then they go through the conversion phase, where they decide to book a trial with you. And so the conversion phase has a different set of content pieces that you have to give them in person, or also with the various material that you create. And what we teach people when they start with us as a coach in our own stores or the franchisees, first of all, is you are educating people on how high intensity training can solve their specific problem. So we are mapping the various benefits of high intensity strength training towards their problem. We talked about it in part 1. It's such a silver bullet that your job as a sales enabler, a salesperson, is to cut through the noise and tell them exactly how high intensity strength training solves their problem. And it's a very empathetic process, right? It's not okay. You're only talking about features and benefits. You're giving them a training, and then you're showing them your plans. When they come in at our room, we have developed a process where we first talk about why they come to us. So we do everything that builds trust, and we need that also to provide a great service when they become clients. So we ask about all certain health problems. We do a health check, just talk to the person, and then we ask specific questions. And also we've built software that is guiding the trainers through this, so they don't forget to ask those questions, and they write them down so that the whole organization knows about the problem and can then always pick up the problem. Not regarding it's not important if it's your second training or your 100th. We can still talk about the problem, and don't forget why you came to us in the first place. And so we go through this process where a person comes in and we ask them, why are they here today? It's an open-ended question, and it's a really important question, because they are not, what you have to understand is they are not in your studio to do strength training. It sounds paradox. They have somewhere along the line picked up that strength training might solve their problem. And so it's not about showing them the features and benefits of the strength training. It's about understanding, why are they here? What's their motivation? What's their reason to be here? And then the next question is, what frustrations did you have with previous solutions that you might have considered? This is an important question because it tells you which features you have to tell them and drive home that your service has to offer. For example, somebody says, my personal trainer wanted me to come in 3 times a week, one hour, and I couldn't fit that into my schedule. And of course, you can hammer home the point then that high intensity strength training only takes 20 minutes in our format, and you shouldn't come in at the week afterwards. And so this is really important about this process. And then the last question that is really, really cool is, what is it that would make you happy if we would have achieved it in 1 year? It's also, again, an open-ended question. It moderates a lot of the thought process, and sometimes tells people or gets people going that they first and foremost make a consideration about what they want to achieve here. And so you develop this motivation in this process, and they tell you nuggets of knowledge about themselves, and this will help you to then not drive a sales process, but drive an education process. And I like to think about it really in a way that is, again, empathetic. It's this person comes to you, has taken the time, and it takes 1 hour out of their busy week, and it's telling you a lot of really intimate things, and now you can take those things and really work with them. And what happens then is you have a goal, you have the pain points, and then you can tell them, look, this is, for example, if the pain point is lower back pain, you can tell them about your specific exercise that you're going to do with them. You can tell them about the importance of myokines and stuff like that. You can really dive deep and be like laser focused on the problem and then also the solution, so that the customer walks out after the first trial session and says, wow, I learned a lot, and I could really I'm really well consulted here. And then you have to be congruent. And the second we write an offer email, right? We kind of write a recap afterwards, and we then offer them the best membership solution. For example, if somebody is doing a lot of cardio and is really a road cyclist and loving that, but in the winter it's too cold, or he might gain some strength, you don't offer them 12 months membership. You offer them 3 months membership. It's an empathetic approach. It's not about hard sales. It's also about providing value during the sales process, during the trial training process, and not necessarily expecting anything in return. It's the great mindset, because you're a sales enabler, and you're providing value. And then the second trial training that we do, we obviously have important steps that are just technical steps around selling. You have to ask them how they want to continue, right? You have to, at one point, you have to ask them what they want to buy, because otherwise it's also awkward if you're not asking at all, right? You have to moderate through the process. But oftentimes people after the second trial, they already say, okay, I'm going to do this. What you have offered makes sense. And it's not at all a kind of a sales process. It doesn't feel like a sales process.
Couple of things I just want to mention on that. That was great. I love how you walked through that. Yeah, so just to be absolutely clear, if someone comes in and says, my main problem is lower back pain, or I've got pain in my knee, don't then say, the reason why you should strength train with us is we're going to give you a great peak on your bicep, right?
Yeah.
That's just to hammer that home. I think, like you said, it's a silver bullet. Strength training is going to deliver so many benefits, cosmetically, but also in terms of their overall health. So it's really tempting to just overwhelm them. Like you might, I'm definitely guilty of saying, hey, you know what? We're going to solve those problems, and we're also going to deliver all these other things. You just got to be very careful of that, because I think you can really kind of digress and deviate off what's really important to them.
And it helps. It happens a lot with unexperienced trainers and new trainers. It happens a lot. And
comfort, right?
Yeah, and as in any area in life, when you are really becoming experienced and an expert at something, you tend to become crisper. You tend to need less words. You become more effective at and effectiveness is about just focusing on what's really the most important thing for the person.
Yeah.
Here,
that's such great advice. And I was curious actually what you said there. You said, so it sounds like you won't make an offer on the first trial. You will have the trial, send an email with an offer, and then they'll come in for a second free workout. Is that right? Why
absolutely.
not just do one and just is it because it converts better this way for you?
The thing is with our machines, right? The first time you create a benchmark, okay, and the next time you have the benchmark. So the second time is to really providing you with the experience how it is then any other time after that, because you're always training against your previous best. And so you need 2 trials to really demonstrate the workout. And you cannot do it in one day because people are weak after the first run through. And a point I wanted to make about a situation that I had with a franchisee the other week. I was with him for a week when he just got started, and it's what I just said is so purely logical. But when you're a business owner and you're really focusing on driving revenues, you tend to be stressed and you tend to focus too much on just the technical part of it, like booking trial sessions and closing, and you just want to do you want to do stuff that feels like directly contributing to your revenue. And it's hard to just provide value without expectation of anything in return. I totally get that. I was there myself. And things start to pick up steam when you start getting into the mindset that I just described. And so the situation was, we were discussing something. We were just doing something. I think we were setting up some furniture that just came in, and a person walked in and just asked about how can I gain weight through muscle mass. And he was like, okay, look, we can talk about it when you book a trial. And she was like, yeah, but I've been trying so many things and I'm so frustrated. She was giving you knowledge bombs. She was just, it's a home run at that point, right? And I don't like traditional gyms, but the personal training is too expensive for me. And I'm like sitting there in like coaching position behind a desk, and I was just listening to it. It was painful, completely painful. And we're laughing about it now, the franchisee and I. And then after 2 minutes, I was just, you have to think about it like you just hear some grounding in the background. It's this massive guys walking towards you, like they're both in the shadow of myself, like strength gains, no problem. I was like, then going through it and just telling her about how strength training works, how muscle gains work, what is important, because she's a 45-year-old woman. I was asking her questions. First of all, I was asking her name, and I was asking her questions about what is it that she is eating, what's her lifestyle. And in the end, she was with us for an hour, just talking. And she did the trial training afterwards, and she converted. And I was afterwards coaching the franchisee, and I was like, look, you have all the time in the world. Your schedule is not full at this point. You can, if she wants to talk to you for 3 hours about this subject, you talk to her about it for 3 hours, because you have nothing else to do. This will compound for years to come. You will be the guy in the area who is the expert on this for her for the next 10 years. She will always talk to people when the topic comes up about you. So this is a great investment. Just provide value and don't expect anything in return. And then obviously people understand if they come regularly and they want to have the value provided to them regularly, they have to pay something. But it's a trivial thing to talk about the mindset, and it's hard to get into that mindset.
I think this is a really good reminder for me, and I totally agree. I think this is really profound. So just to dig in a little bit more on that. I agree. So you'll answer all her questions. You'll add value. You'll just focus on educating her. But does there come a point, let's say, where she says, okay, that's all great, but I don't understand how this workout can really help me do that. I mean, really, 6 minutes once a week? Like, come on.
Yeah.
Do you think there comes a point, this has been my experience, where it's like, you know what, we can talk all night, but until you actually experience it, it's just going to, it's not going to be effective. So
absolutely.
When do you get to that point? You say, look, you just need to have a free workout right now.
I mean, absolutely. If you are outside your studio, obviously you then have to have a point where you're like, hey, look, we have to do a workout now. So you and I, we are both on the same level. We talk about the same thing. You've experienced it. And then it's a nice conversion to just booking a trial training. And when in that case, she was in the studio with us, and obviously after half an hour, we just said, like, let's sit down, let's do one exercise so you understand how intense this whole thing is. And it's also something that helps you as a high intensity training business. People understand that intensity is good. People are not necessarily looking for the magic pill, like an electric patch that's building muscle. They understand, okay, work hard and then you will get results. And so they are really delighted when they feel how intense this training is. And so we did a demo then, and it was a no-brainer for her to do a trial after that.
I love that. And just to summarize some of this, I think this is so powerful because so many of our colleagues don't enjoy selling. And that's because sales has a lot of stigma. I've talked about this before. And when people think of sales, they think of being pushy and pressuring someone into a decision, which is not good sales. Like, this is the thing, like, I've worked in sales before, studying the studio, before moving to Ireland for like 10 years in IT. So I saw all types of salespeople. I saw salespeople who were really introverted and analytical and kind of shy, but were great listeners and actually did very, very well, even though they didn't fit that stereotypical sales personality. And then Absolutely. I saw the really pushy types, and a lot of them had just tons of rejection because they put people off. And we've just got this kind of like what do you call, like, bias in society where people just focus on that individual as being like, you have to be like that, gregarious, pushy, persistent to be a good salesperson. But you're saying, hey, you know what? That's actually the opposite of what you want to try and do. You want to actually just be educating them, providing value, understanding how to communicate so that you're talking directly to someone's problem and not being extraneous of what you're saying, right? But in doing so, you're going to have more sales conversions, and you'll never have to be in that super uncomfortable position where you're trying to push someone into a sale, because that's never going to be good for anyone else anyway, because they're probably not going to end up retaining that person very long if they're forced into a decision they don't want to do anyway. But yeah, sorry, go ahead, Julian.
And I mean, at the deep level, it's also it ties in with the laws of attraction, right? If you are super pushy, I mean, people are expelled by neediness. And for God's sake, if you have decided to do a high intensity strength training business, you don't have to be needy. You have a great formula at your hand, and you're doing you're on a great mission to educate people about this training philosophy. So you don't need to be needy at all. Because you're not selling some useless widget or whatever. You're selling something that has tremendous value and changes lives. And so avoid neediness at all costs. And the next thing is that good salespeople, and I think that will also be true for the people that you just mentioned, that were actually really shy and timid. What shy and timid people tend to do, they hate improvising. And being improvising, they hate it. So they are shy and nervous about it. So they create a system. They create for themselves a system where they understand, okay, this works. This gives me security when I go through this process. And that's setting them apart, because every great salesperson, you will find that they talk to the person first about their problem and learn about the person, and then they start actually educating about the solution that they have, and that's just setting people apart. And then obviously you have different levels. If you have somebody who is just a great guy or a great girl and you just love to be around them, obviously they are a better salesperson. But give a shy person a great process, and a very outgoing person a bad process, and the shy person will win out every time.
Expelled by neediness. I love that.
Yeah, it is like that.
That's such a great litmus test, right? As soon as you feel yourself getting needy, stop. Just stop right there.
Absolutely.
Stop what you're doing.
Absolutely.
Now, that brings me on to... Yeah, go ahead.
I want to say one thing where you have to, again, differentiate a bit. Following up is not neediness, right? Yeah. I mean, it has technical reasons, or like just simple reasons. Following up with somebody because the sales email got lost in day-to-day chores, and they just want to have it actually, but they didn't find the time yet. I had an experience like that with my insurance broker. He's a great guy, also a client of ours. And he was just providing us with a new health insurance. And I had to fill out a form. And I was not into it. And
those forms take a while.
And it always moved down. And he was like, hey, just gentle reminder, we have to have this handed in by the end of the month. And that's a follow-up that's completely all right. I mean, it's actually also, again, providing value, because I would have missed the deadline.
Yeah, I actually would love to spend some time on follow-up. In fact, I could quite happily spend the next half an hour with you on follow-up, because this is something I've actually been reviewing a lot lately. I've been talking about it with other business owners in terms of like the right way to go about it. What is your follow-up strategy in Aurum? Like, what are the steps? What's your process for that?
So you have the first trial. Then after the first trial, you get the sales email. Or the offer email, that's how we call it. And then you actually have your second trial. And so now things can start going south. If somebody doesn't do their second trial, it's a great indicator that they have a reason why they don't want to buy, right? Maybe it's too expensive for them. Maybe they don't see the value. All these things happen. And so what we do in really young locations is the location heads or the franchisees, and for that matter, they follow up with an email. Hey, shall we get a second trial booked? And it's again something that provides value, because oftentimes people have to cancel, they forget to book again, and it's part of the value proposition that you have a human that cares that you come in, right? In the mature locations in Zurich, where we have problem finding space, we don't do that, because it's an effectiveness thing, right? If somebody doesn't book their second trial, the medium is oftentimes the message, and the effort is not worth it to follow up with everybody. If somebody wants to come, they will come, right? But at the young locations, you want to turn every rock in a way, and you follow up there. And then if no answer comes in, you don't follow up anymore. That's then becomes neediness, right? It's actually.
Okay, can I just interrupt for a second? So you will not follow up after one follow-up. You'll leave it at that point.
Yeah.
Interesting. Because what about, so I've had instances where, and I've definitely been guilty of this. I've definitely felt a little needy. Almost dropped my pen.
Everybody
felt
does.
A little needy.
Everybody does.
And I followed up probably, I'm just thinking there's a couple individuals who have become great clients. Been working with me for a while. And I know I had to follow those. I'm thinking now. I think one I had to follow up about 3 or 4 times, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm so glad I did. I'm not saying you're not right. I agree with what you're saying, but I'm just saying, like, take that young studio owner. That young studio or early studio franchisee. If they do one follow up, they might be missing out on that client if they did 2 more. But are you arguing that energy and time and effort could be spent better, in elsewhere, and just doing that one follow-up email and moving on to the next?
So we have to separate between like new customers and existing customers in a way. If somebody really new customers, you don't have this connection yet. You haven't built a lot of trust with them. And so again, one follow-up is something that provides value in my view. If they don't answer that, I mean, think about it. It tells you that it's not so important for them to come in and do the training, or people are sometimes shy about saying no. And so it might be that 1 in 10 it creates a client, but I'm basically saying it's not worth it to follow up more than 1 time. The other thing is when it's an existing client, right? Because these clients, they are with you for a year or something, and it's just a matter of caring about them to follow up persistently until you have an answer, right? Did something go wrong? Don't you like our new trainer? It's about, hey, we care about you. This is something that makes total sense. It's not following up. It's actually really showing you care.
So now we're talking more about like reactive retention now, right? If someone stops turning up,
absolutely,
and then if they cancel. So can we just be clear? So like for reactive retention, it's like, okay, they stop attending for 1 week or 2 weeks. You start having automated communication to them. And that might be like 5 or 6 emails. It might be 3 emails and a phone call. It might be 3 emails, a phone call, and a text message, whatever it is. And then you've got, if they cancel, then you've got like another sequence that might focus on trying to get feedback and try to understand what happened.
Absolutely.
That's what we're talking about here, right?
Absolutely. And that's basically we guys in high intensity training and personal high intensity training, we should take pride in that, because it's our main differentiator from like regular gyms, right? We actually care that people show up. We want them to show up. And so follow up there is something you have to do. It's should make you proud about your job, about your craft. In the sales process, when the people are really in the consideration phase, right? They need a way to drop out easily, right? Then, because otherwise it's pushy. If they, it's also something like when you, for example, the second trial, you can just cancel it online without friction, because people sometimes are insecure about saying no or canceling. And so the experience is bad for them, and it should never be bad for them to engage with your brand. So just leave them a way out. And it's also a part of a great sales enabling process. Let them have an easy way out. Obviously, it's good if they say no, it's not for me. That's the reason why, but that's not how the world works.
Would you ever follow up with a phone call instead of an email?
No.
Because you're making them uncomfortable about saying no, and then that's a bad experience of your business. Is that what you're thinking?
You know, these phone calls are like really brutal, like, right? So you had phone calls like that, right? You had like, hey, we have this great investment opportunity in an electric company in China, and you're like, hey man, appreciate your work, but I have to just hang up now. And phone calls are just brutal. It's an email. It's a neutral format. They can take their time. They're not time pressured to answer. And it shows that you care. And if they don't come back, it's not for them.
Can you tell me exactly what that follow-up email generally says?
So the follow-up email says, look, it's been a week. Now would be the perfect time to do another workout to really get the benefits. Wondering what happened. Shall we get a new appointment in the schedule?
Okay.
And
something to that effect.
That's it. Yeah, something to that effect. And also now with the franchising, we personalize that so they can write it themselves in a way.
So your advice to new franchisees, again, young studios, young franchisees, would be like, stop wasting. Get someone in for a first trial. Obviously, you deliver an incredible trial. That goes without saying, right? That's really important. I think we forget how important that is. Then the offer email goes out, and if you don't hear from them, it's a follow-up email. Then you say to their franchisee, stop, move on to the next. Just move on to driving more into the funnel, basically.
Absolutely.
Trying to add value. Yeah.
Which I completely understand is easy if you have like 6 trials a week. That's what we see at the moment on average in the new locations, right?
Wow, that's really good.
That's amazing. I mean, they actually franchisees are just amazing. Franchisees are just like they crushing all forecasts always, because they are not average. They want to make it work, right? And these forecasts are based on averages, and so it's easier. That's what I say. If you have 5 to 6 trials a week, I totally get that. But also think about it that way. If you engage with a client and they have a great trial train, for whatever reason they don't convert, make sure they have a great experience with your brand, because you don't know what happens along the road, right? It might not be for them, but they might talk to somebody and say, I was there, it was amazing. And they just talk positive about your brand. And so it's always a touch point that you have to create as pleasant as possible for the customer.
Yeah, recognize the patterns, guys. Those that listen to this podcast regularly will hear what you just said there, and it's very much echoing what other experts have said on the podcast. It's not about converting that person right there. It's about delivering an incredible experience so that they talk to others and promote your brand. And that's the way to look at it, for sure.
And basically, on a meta level, that's the ultimate marketing strategy there is, because just do a great experience, and people talk about it, right? Yeah. We all heard about some of the biggest brands in the world from France. I heard about Airbnb from a friend. I heard about Uber from a work colleague in London. I not heard about it from an ad or something. They just said it's easy, it's convenient, it's great. You have to try it out.
Yeah, it's the best. I mean, I'm just thinking about right now where I am. There's a couple prospects who did not convert into clients, but they're people who I know I gave a great workout to because I heard from a third party that they were just raving on about it afterwards, right? Yeah. So I am confident, playing the long game, that these people will tell others, and then we'll drive more people in for free workouts over time. So it's actually comforting to have this conversation with you, because it's kind of reassuring to me, even though we are doing quite well. It's like, I have a desire to obviously convert every single person that walks into the studio. So that's really interesting. And I also think that also continues throughout everything you do, right? So I'm thinking of BNI, and I'm thinking about how I present myself in BNI, how I communicate during BNI, my 60-second pitch. When I do the education slot in BNI, like you said, if you end up taking on more roles like president, like how you do anything is how you do everything, right? So when people see you in all these different contexts, there's opportunities to show them that you are professional, to show them that you represent a really strong brand. And I think that's everywhere. I don't think that's just in BNI. I think that's when you're talking to your neighbor over the hedge. I think that's when you're taking your kid to crash. I think it's everywhere. Absolutely.
Yeah. Think about what a brand is. A brand is a set of ideas and touch points that you had that just tell you, I can trust that company or that person. That's a brand. I mean, Coca-Cola is, okay, I can trust that this tastes exactly the same way. It tastes good. It's there's no poison in it, right? That's a brand. McDonald's, I get my food in a fast time. It's reasonably good. Tastes good. That's their brand. And a brand is a set of values that just drive trust with the customer. And that's a topic for another podcast that I'm diving deep into at the moment, obviously, because we're in the branding phase. But what I want to ask you is, what was the background of the person that did not convert? What were they doing in their life? What was sports-wise?
Really good question. The one I've got in mind, this is embarrassing because I can't remember without looking at his workout card. But if I remember rightly, he was a builder, big guy, very strong, and did some pretty impressive stuff on the MedX, right? And loved the workout.
He was making the iron glow. Like he was crushing it.
Exactly. And I think from memory, he wasn't doing much at all, except because he's running a building company, and he's got like just under 10 staff. So he's not on the tools as much. He's managing. So he's probably conscious of the fact that he's going to be doing less physical work. So he needs some kind of exercise intervention, right? Exercise routine. So no, to be honest, Julian, I'd have to look at his card to remind myself like his pain points and his problems. Yeah. So.
But for the sake of the exercise, right? Let's assume he is pretty athletic. And he's obviously,
I'd say he may be back in the day, but I'd say now he's a little bit older. He's not been taking care of himself quite as well, so he's probably could do losing a bit of body fat as well. So
but let's say he knows his way around the weight room. Let's for the purpose of the exercise. Sure. And so let's say he knows his way about the weight room, and he's a person that as a builder, he's always cost conscious and trying to be as cost effective as possible, because like home builders oftentimes have a fixed price, and so what they can save is their margin. So it's just in their personality that they think about ways in how to get the same with less expenditures, and they so he walks out of your studio and he had a great experience. But during his consideration phase, he says, okay, I get the concept. And let me try and go into it, just a normal studio, and train the way that I was just taught, and do this for a fraction of the price. And it happened to me and to us. So that's why I can talk about it. We had people that say, oh, that was great. I will do it in a studio. And then that's your answer, right? That's why you didn't convert. They just didn't feel such a great,
it's true.
They didn't see such a great value in it, so that they were motivated to pay for the certain price that you have. And then it's great to just let it be. And oftentimes they then, after a year or 6 months, they come back, because there's different things that's going on, like the appointment and the personal training and stuff like that. They're like, okay, damn it.
Yeah,
he was right.
That could be the case. That could be the case. Who knows, right? And hopefully, actually, he's a member of my BNI. So, like, I'm going to learn more and more and more about him. I had him on a video call recently because he was helping me fix my heater in my house, right?
Oh, right.
So I had him on a video call. So we've become good friends. So it's all good. And I'll learn more over time. But no, I think you make a really good point. It's like, this is actually something I've been talking about quite a bit lately. It's like when someone doesn't get back to you, right, from a follow-up, and this is maybe a little bit of a devil's advocate on your follow-up strategy, but it's like, when they don't get back to you, sometimes it's like you say, it's not out of desire or lack of desire, sorry. It's because they're being bombarded by like 2,500 social media notifications every day. I mean, these days, like Facebook message and WhatsApp is like email, right?
Yeah.
It's not.
And the worst thing is it has branched out.
Asynchronous now.
Oh my God, it's so bad. Also, video conferencing, it has just created like the Pandora's box is open. I mean, like, people write you on WhatsApp, they write you on Slack, they write you an email, they text you, and you're like, and sometimes you simply forget. That's why a follow-up can be effective.
But here's the point I'm trying to make. Sorry, June. Just let me finish this point. So it's like, I think of myself, and maybe you're like me, Julian, my phone is super boring. I have no notifications. I have no social media apps on my phone, because I know that discipline is overrated.
Yeah.
And I'd rather just I'd have too much friction, and that solves the problem. Therefore, I don't get distracted, right? But I forget I am not like regular people. And most of my friends have not most of my friends, but some of my friends will have, been hammered by notifications all day long, which would drive me insane. But then I think of the prospect, and I think, well, the prospect is getting that. And they're also disorganized in their home life and in their business. So they're just it's total chaos, right? And you're trying to filter through that chaos. So sometimes I'm like, maybe there is a justification for more than one follow-up, because maybe they do really want it, but they're just way too overwhelmed.
Yeah.
So what do you make of that? How would you think about that?
I mean, we should try it out together. We can go door to door and then just say, hey, how is your day? We want to talk about you, to talk to you about the high intensity training philosophy. No, I mean, those are the original gangsters, right? How are they called? The witnesses of Jehovah.
Of course.
Yeah, these are the guys. Like, let's talk about God. Yeah, and that's super hard sales, right? It's like at your door, kind of invading your home. It's so painful.
Must be like the lowest hit rate of any.
It's so painful. I mean, it's
approach.
They should have a blog. I mean, just try and have a blog about God. It works. It works much better. I think, again, even if there's a lot of chaos in the life of the person, if the problem is big enough, they will prioritize it, and so it just goes back into this finding the right person for what you have to offer, being in the right niche. So then it becomes not a question of what medium you use or what text you write. If the problem is big enough, they will come in. I mean, and they will read your follow-up. If you have back pain, chronic back pain, you will make time for strength training. it is what it is. Or if you have pain in your teeth, you will go to the dentist. It's just on the spectrum of how severe, how intense is the problem, and then you will see the prioritization of the person.
But if you didn't do a great job in your trial, that doesn't mean that they're going to find that solution with you. They'll find it some way, and that's the key thing. That's the key distinction to make there.
That's absolutely. I mean, and you in your trial, you will not be able to talk over anything or to make something right by talking. If they don't feel it, they don't feel it. If they don't walk out afterwards with a great feeling, you can talk all day long and you can follow up all day long. You won't convert. Feeling trumps, it's 10,000 times stronger than words. But I wanted to dive in, make a really strong example of why when you will not do a sale. I will bet you money that you will not do a sale if somebody comes in who is already super fit and enjoying a lot of CrossFit style workouts and stuff during the week. You will not make that sale. It happens a lot in the beginning. Also in BNI, you will witness people where they recommend you people that are already doing a lot of sport. So you have in your social circles, you always have people that are the sporty guy or the sporty girl, right? You have your triathlon people, your CrossFitters, and those are the people that they think it's easy, right? Wow, they have this cool sports thing going on with high intensity training. I will recommend them. But these are not your customers. They won't see the value. But you're telling me I have to only train, I'm only allowed to train once a week, 20 minutes? Get lost. I love what I'm doing. For these people, it's their hobby to do a lot of high volume stuff and train a lot. And so that you won't convert those because they don't see a value in it.
Yeah, great point. And I think one of the other things that I'll just touch on, and you can comment, and then we can look to wrap this one up. But it's you kind of touched on it earlier, which is this focus, this mindset of don't be needy, just drive value, educate, follow up once. This approach, which I really love, it's you got to remember that some individuals, and I've had this happen for different businesses. It's if you do a great job with that process, so you follow up once, and then I'm guessing you have those people will fall onto an email list and they'll still get a newsletter every week or something.
They get a newsletter.
So you're still communicating with them, but it's just
and we have, by now we have people that just read the newsletter, from north of Germany. They're like, wow, this is a great newsletter.
So let's say on that newsletter, there's a call to action at the bottom, right? So you got an amazing email with, great content, sends them to the site. Maybe there's a call to action on the email for a free workout trial. Maybe there's a call to action on the website. There definitely is on the website because I've seen it. Then, every time you hit them with that email, with that value, there's an option for them to take action. And eventually, if they're the right fit and they have problems that align with your solutions, and eventually over enough period of time, they will go for a free workout. They will come back in and they'll become a customer. And that might take 6 months. That might take a year. It might take 5 years. But if you're doing that at scale, it can work really, really well. And similarly, it's like when people cancel. I think this is something which I, at some point I want to do a whole podcast on, which is just talking about how we deal with cancellations. And I've seen this happen in other businesses. It's when you handle cancellations really well and you provide value and ask for feedback and try and show empathy and how can we serve you better? How can we improve? Those people will rejoin whatever it is you've got going or buy later,
Absolutely.
Because of the way you handled that and because you're always thinking long game, you're always thinking long term. So I just thought that was important to say, because I think you got to think that everything you do, you got to think, how is this going to pan out over the long term?
Absolutely.
Right? So would you agree with most of that then? Yeah.
Absolutely. And again, it sounds easy, but it's hard to implement if you kind of think back against the wall, I have to do sales, or I don't want to refund this subscription. And whenever that happens, you have to take a step back, detach and also reconsider what you're doing, because it goes through the whole organization or the whole business model that you've chosen, the whole product that you have chosen. If you have to be pushy with clients, or if you have to be an asshole about cancellations and not give them their money back if something went wrong, you have a fundamental problem. You should reconsider everything. How in the world can it be okay that somebody is kind of paying you a year in advance, then they get hurt, and you're saying, okay, no, the AGBs, the business terms say we can't refund. How in the world is that okay? How can this be okay? What's wrong with you? I mean, you don't provide value. You're not entitled to have that money. It's theft. I mean, that's how you have to think about it. And
I love that mindset.
And it's also what happens, for example, with airlines a lot, right? Where they like, oh, yeah, you want to cancel? You will not get your money back. What the fuck? I didn't fly anywhere. I mean, what's the difference? What's the difference?
I've had some people go through that recently. Yeah.
I mean, what's the difference? From like with Amazon, you pay by credit card and you don't get the stuff. What's the difference? You didn't get the service. You should get your money back.
Yeah. That's something you talked about on the last podcast. You said about, I love this, again, this mindset you mentioned. You spoke about the idea, again, this is a podcast we did way back, about the fact that money and revenue is just a metric to measure the amount of value you provide.
Yeah.
It's so simple, but I don't know why, but I found that so profound when you said that.
It's not the input, it's the output.
Yeah.
If you focus on the process, you will see it on the scoreboard, which is in euro or in Swiss francs or in British pounds. It's just keeping score. But it's really important to stay focused on that. And we can talk about cancellations on a whole podcast and how to handle it, because we are talking people's health here. And so if you're doing something wrong, you definitely can be glad if you only have to give them their money back. If somebody gets hurt because you made a mistake, they should be entitled to come pay money, actually. But obviously we couldn't run our businesses with that risk. So it's kind of the status quo is okay. We are not liable, but we would definitely give you your money back if you get hurt. I mean, it's a matter of respect.
Yeah. Julian, I also want to be respectful of you and your time. And I really appreciate you jumping on a Sunday at relatively short notice. And I just get so excited talking to you because we can go so deep on topics that are so important for our colleagues and our businesses. And there's so much more we can cover. And I could do this with you every week, honestly. There's so much wisdom that you have. And you guys are one of the most exciting, if not the most exciting, high-intensity training business in the world right now in terms of how fast you're growing. Yeah, I just think you've got great leadership. You clearly, you and your co-founder and leadership team have got such a strong background in business that I think it gives you a real edge in this market. And I'm really excited to see where that's going to take you. And go ahead, Jeff.
What I want to say about that, right, is we were not like that in the beginning. And we said it in the part 1, right? Just set big goals and your mind will expand. And you start asking fundamental questions, because if you're running 7 stores and then you plan to go to 20 stores, you really have to think about stuff like that on a fundamental level and kind of go deep into stuff like brand and processes and stuff like that. So just set yourself big goals and you will expand your thinking and ask questions that just lead you down some paths that give you this wisdom, right?
You're right. I should correct what I said. I don't want listeners to think, I have to be from a banking and M&A, mergers, acquisitions background to launch a business. No. Of course you do not. Not at all, in fact. In fact, you don't really need much business experience whatsoever. You can learn all that stuff. And but what the point I was trying to make is that I think it gives you obviously an advantage. It does help you in terms of growing your business and the great thing for me and for all the listeners is, we get to learn all of that from you as well for the podcast, so we can implement it. So no, I'm definitely don't want people thinking that they need that, because they certainly don't. Julian, what's the best way for people to find out more about you if they're interested in an Aurum franchise? How can they find out more?
So the direct franchise website is franchise.aurumfit.com. And you can also go via the website, aurumfit.com. And we have a YouTube channel, Aurumfit. It's in German, but the website is in English. And there's also another podcast, Swisspreneur, where I walk through the story of how we came to this point in our company's history, and that's also a great start to just get an overview about us as a company, the culture, and what we have, which pains we have went through to now sit here reasonably relaxed on a Sunday morning.
Who is that with? Sorry, that podcast? I'll link that.
It's called Swisspreneur.
Okay,
and that one is in English. That's why I mentioned it. It's in English.
That's great.
Swisspreneur, Julian Masler.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And what's there else to say? You gave all your details there, which is great. And for everyone listening, to find the blog post for this episode, please go to highintensitybusiness.com and search for episode 338. And until next time, thank you very much for listening.